Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 16, 2016 NFL predictions. Well, before I start my video, I would like to wish everybody out there a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody around the world that watch my video, and everybody that's out there. The holidays are my favorite time of the year. It's time for the spirit of giving, enjoying one's company, enjoying being around your family, enjoying passing gifts, and enjoying just the essence of pure fun and joy. And for everybody out there that's watching the video from the U.S., all across the world, I would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone out there. So, moving on from that, the Fanatic this week had a extremely efficient week in terms of both against the spread and straight up. Against the spread, I had another winning week so far. This week I am 8-6-1 against the spread, and straight up I've had my best week of the year so far this year, with a 13-2 record. That is 57% this week against the spread and about 87% straight up. And now overall for the year, I'm 102, 105-8 against the spread, which is about 49%. And straight up, I am now 139, 82-2. So looking at the next 2 weeks and after the playoffs, the 50% range is still there, but I'm not really expecting, just of how my against the spread picking has been, I don't really expect to be able to hit that 50% mark. I hope I do. But getting up to about 49%, getting about halfway there from where I started, that's a pretty good improvement. And I'm happy to where I improved those numbers for myself, that next year I have something to build off of to go with my against the spread picks next year. And straight up, I've about reached that 63, 64%. I did not think it was possible, just for how I was going. But after a week like this, hopefully the next 2 weeks, I can build off of them and have 3 really strong weeks to put me at about 64, 65% to end the year. That would be a very great way to end the year and put me right about my range of picking all the games. What a wild week in the NFL, as they all are. I want to congratulate the Oakland Raiders and the football guru, too. Shout out to him, John Glover. His Oakland Raiders have clinched a playoff spot, ending the third longest drought in the NFL at 14 seasons with a 19-16 victory over the San Diego Chargers. First time since the 2001-2002 seasons that the Raiders swept the Chargers in back-to-back seasons. So I'm very happy for Oakland fans. You deserve this moment. The silver and black attack are back, and while the Oakland Raiders can celebrate to Oakland, San Diego fans, Los Angeles is only about a month away. Maybe in a new environment. I doubt it. Maybe you can get new life and try to impress the Los Angeles fans that you're better than the Rams. And at least right now, you're more entertaining to watch than the Rams. So I do want to congratulate the Oakland Raiders for that. I also want to congratulate the Seattle Seahawks for winning the NFC West for the third time in 4 years, and getting over their Rams tonight with a 24-3 win over them. I know probably it's not that impressive to beat the Rams, but still for them, after losing 3 straight to them, and just how the Seahawks looked on last Sunday against the Packers, the fact that they get a 21-point win the way they did, that has to bring some confidence and a smile, knowing that we now are in the playoffs and have a very good shot of winning the division and the second seed in the NFC. For the playoffs, which is huge for them, because as soon as they go on the road in a playoff game, I believe they will lose. If they're at home in a playoff game, I think they will win, or I think they will win, or they can beat whoever goes into Seattle. So there's that. I also want to congratulate the Titans for a big upset win over the Chiefs. Fun fact here, the Titans' number 2 overall pick, Marcus Mariota, and the Bucs' number 1 overall pick in Jameis Winston, both went into Kansas City this year, and both won the game by the same score, 19-17. So, and it's a big one for the Titans. First non-losing season since 2011 was assured, and now I believe they are on the fast track to win the AFC South and get in the playoffs for the first time since 2008. So congrats to Tennessee there. All right, so time for my picks. So this Thursday, when the 10-4 New York Giants go to the 5-9 Philadelphia Eagles, the New York Giants are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the New York Giants -3 and the New York Giants straight up. And then on Saturday, Christmas Eve, when the 9-5 Miami Dolphins go to the 7-7 Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like Buffalo minus 3.5, and Buffalo straight up. And then the next game, when the 8-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 6-8 New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I actually like Tampa Bay plus 3.5 in an upset, and Tampa Bay straight up to beat New Orleans. And then the next game, when the 4-10 New York Jets go to the 12-2 New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are 16.5-point favorites in this game. That is a massive number to swallow, but looking at the two states of these two teams, I'm actually going to take that. I'm going to take New England minus 16.5 and New England straight up. The only reason is I thought the Rams could cover against Seattle with a 15-point spread. They couldn't. So I'm going to trust with the Patriots. It's only a point and a half more. I'll trust them to beat the Jets by that much just because it's a severe mismatch. But so I'm taking New England again, minus 16.5, and New England straight up. And then the next game, when the 8-6 Tennessee Titans go to the 2-12 Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans are 4.5-point favorites in this game. I like Tennessee minus 4.5, Tennessee straight up. And then the next game, when the 7-7 Minnesota Vikings go to the 8-6 Green Bay Packers, the Green Bay Packers are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Green Bay minus 7, and Green Bay straight up. And in the next game, when the 5-9 San Diego Chargers go to the 0-14 Cleveland Browns, the San Diego Chargers are 6-point favorites in this game. I like San Diego minus 6, San Diego straight up. And then the next game, when the 8-5-1 or 7-6-1 Washington Redskins go to the 3-11 Chicago Bears, the Washington Redskins are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like Washington minus 3.5, and Washington straight up. And then the next game, when the 9-5 Atlanta Falcons go to the 5-9 or 6-8 Carolina Panthers. This is not. There's no spread here, so I'm just going to assume it's a pick'em at this point, and that's what I'm going to stick with for this game. And I know there will be a spread that comes out later, but in this situation, I like Atlanta and a pick'em, and Atlanta straight up. And in the next game, when the 7-7 Indianapolis Colts go to the 11-3 Oakland Raiders, the Oakland Raiders are 4-point favorites in this game. I like the Oakland Raiders minus 4, and the Oakland Raiders straight up. And then the next game, when the 5-8-1 Arizona Cardinals go to the 9-4-1 Seattle Seahawks, the Seattle Seahawks are 9-point favorites in this game. I actually like Arizona plus 9 here. I think with how Arizona is, they're the ultimate spoiler team. Going into Seattle, they've played pretty well in Seattle over the last couple of years. This is a team that's just going to try to spoil, momentum. And I think they have enough talent to say that they'll make it at least a 7-8 one-possession game to cover the spread. But yes, that's why I'm going to take Arizona plus 9, but Seattle straight up. And then the next game, when the 1-13 San Francisco 49ers go to the 4-10 Los Angeles Rams, I'm going to take the San Francisco 49ers here plus 3 and San Francisco straight up. Though nobody really cares to watch this game, this is an embarrassment to put on Christmas Eve. I'd rather watch any horrible Christmas movie than watch this football game. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if LA wins either. But I'm going to take San Francisco here plus 3 and San Francisco straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-8-1 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 8-6 Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Cincinnati here in an upset. Cincinnati plus 2.5 and Cincinnati straight up. And then on Christmas Day, when the 8-6 Baltimore Ravens go to the 9-5 Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 4.5-point favorites in this game. I like Baltimore plus 4.5 on the line, but I'm going to take Pittsburgh straight up in that instance. And then for the nightcap on Christmas Day, you'll have the 8-6 Denver Broncos going to the 10-4 Kansas Chiefs. The Chiefs are 4-point favorites in this game. I like KC minus 4 and KC straight up. And then on Monday night, when the 9-5 Detroit Lions go to the 12-2 Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Dallas minus 7 and Dallas straight up. All right, so time for my thoughts on each game. Giants at Eagles. I would congratulate the Giants. They are a very good team. They've been on an absolute roll. Odell Beckham especially. He caught his 10th touchdown since Week 5, which is the most in the NFL during this 10-week stretch. He's been the absolute biggest playmaker they've had. Sterling Shepard also, I'm going to congratulate him. He caught his 7th receiving touchdown of the season. And as for a rookie, that actually puts him at second most touchdowns for a rookie wide receiver. Anybody want to guess who the number 1 receiver was that caught the most touchdowns as a rookie? Oh, yeah, that's right, Odell Beckham. But what a surprise there. So I want to congratulate Sterling Shepard there. And I want to congratulate the Giants defense. They've spent a tremendous amount of money on guys like Olivier Vernon, Snacks Harrison. They brought back Jason Pierre-Paul, even though he's not playing. But they drafted Eli Apple. They paid Janoris Jenkins. They added so much defensive talent to help this team. And this defense is one of the best in the league. And with how this defense is playing, Eli doesn't have to do as much to get victories. And they're just suffocating teams left and right. And it was impressive that Lions offense, which has shown a lot of potential, could only score 6 points. So kudos to the Giants there. And also, they've won 8 of their last 9 games. Their only loss coming against Pittsburgh. And they had a lot of blown opportunities in that game. But they've been pretty consistent in the way they've been able to compete and win games. And when you can close games out like they can, you can go pretty far. And I think the Giants are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Also, for the first time in 3 games, Eli Manning did not commit a turnover. And that was kind of the awkward thing with Eli is that, you really don't know. But for him to not commit a turnover, especially against this Lions team, very impressive to get their 10th victory. And there's also, here's a little fun stat. First time since weeks 7 and 8 of the 2013 season, the G-Men held 2 teams to 7 points or under in back-to-back games. So kudos to the Giants defense again. Well-paid investment. But the one thing with the Giants that you notice is that they're not really consistent. They don't wow you. It's actually kind of awkward when they play. Since week 5, they're 30th in terms of big plays. And what I mean by that is they have generated the third fewest 10-plus yard runs or 15-plus yard passes in the league over the last 9 weeks. Over the last 9 weeks, yep. And, again, if you look at the game, Odell Beckham was the leading receiver for the Giants. He only had 63 yards. So, yeah, this Giants team is different because it doesn't really wow you offensively. Actually, it's somewhat hard to watch. But you have to give them credit for being able to find ways to win and being able to cause turnovers and make big touchdown plays when they can, or score points when they have to. And they're gonna need some of that, especially against a division rival like the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off the game that they just played against Baltimore. The Philadelphia Eagles ran for the most rushing yards that the number 2 run defense, my Baltimore Ravens, have given up this year, so that's incredibly impressive. And for the Eagles itself, the first time since Week 13 of last year that the running offense outgained their passing offense. And I have to give Doug Peterson credit for being able to stick with that game plan and their offensive line to block enough so our defensive line gets gashed the way it did. And I want to give credit to Matthews and Brian Johnson, there we go, that's his name. With Smallwood and Sproles being out, he had his opportunity, and he made some big plays that I was very impressed with. And the Eagles, after winning their road game in Chicago, they lost their last 7 road games to finish 1-7 on the road. Though they scored the most points, I believe, in their road game against us this week than any of their other road games besides Chicago. Oh, no, I even think they, and this is interesting, though, for the Giants, though. These last 2 years, the Giants have had tremendous problems in Philadelphia. They've averaged 3.5 points per game, and they have had 4 turnovers caused, and they only average 250.5 yards per game, the Giants' offense. But what I see out of these 2 teams are, one's playing, with a lot more confidence and just has more talent, and just looking at how Carson Wentz has played, he's had a few bright spots, and he's shown a lot of heart over the last couple weeks since that Cincinnati game. And he's shown that he can, he has the potential of being that franchise quarterback. But just looking at these 2 teams, I just have to go with the Giants because you have a much better defense with much deeper parts, especially in the secondary, even though Jenkins might not play, which would be huge. And I trust that the Giants, Odell and Victor, they have a much better receiving core. They can make plays, and I think the Giants' defense is going to cause more havoc for Carson Wentz. He threw 2 picks back-to-back in the first quarter of the last game in MetLife, and I think he can cause a couple more turnovers the Giants can capitalize on. And I just think the Giants, with their grit, will pound out another win over an Eagle team that's just playing spoiler now. And even though the Eagles can spoil the Giants, I'm going to take the Giants here, better team, playing in a better position, playing more motivated, and they've looked more impressive in a longer stretch to give them this win over Philadelphia, team that has shown, glares of fight, but at the end they haven't been able to close games in which the Giants have been able to. So that's why I like the New York Giants -3 and the New York Giants straight up. Next game, Bills over Dolphins. First of all, I just want to point out, I am not doing this because I'm being a homer. Because I know the Dolphins right now, maintain the 6th seed, and essentially the Ravens need the Dolphins to lose their final 2 games to have a shot, and we need to win one of our final 2 games to get that 6th seed. I am not doing that because I'm a homer. Just wanted to point that out there. But I'm taking Buffalo over Miami, even though Miami is coming off a very solid victory all around against the Jets. I know it's the Jets, but they still looked incredibly impressive, especially with their backup quarterback, Matt Moore, who threw for a career-high 4 touchdowns against the Jets, which is pretty embarrassing for the Jets. Miami scored their highest offensive total of points all year, and Jarvis Landry, I want to congratulate him. He caught his longest pass of the year and his longest touchdown of his career as a wide receiver. I think he had a punt return that was longer, and he had 1 rush that was longer, but kudos to Jarvis Landry and the Dolphins for being that impressive. And they also scored their third special teams touchdown with the blocked punt about in the third quarter that actually ties them with the Chiefs and Vikings for the most special teams touchdowns in the NFL this year. And where the Dolphins, have been on a roll, and Adam Gase is definitely, he should be getting some Coach of the Year votes because what he's done in Miami from a 1-4 start to a 8-1 now record they're on now has been incredibly impressive. And to see Ryan Tannehill and Matt Moore, essentially, they almost look the same, or, they look the same. That's a credit to Gase for providing a game plan that makes them look, still consistent. But they're playing a Bills team that got to gain some false confidence by beating the winless Browns. Even though there was a couple impressive aspects. Sean McCoy had his 4th game with 100-plus rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the 2nd most games with those stat numbers in a season in recent memory, since the last running back to do that was Chris Johnson in 2009 when he had 6 games of 100-plus rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. And again, the Rex Ryan system, it's ground and pound, it's consistent, and that's exactly what's happened for the 7th time this year. The Bills' rushing offense outgained their passing offense, and that's the way Rex Ryan would like to have it. And Tyrod Taylor now has about 20 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, if you count his rushing and passing touchdowns combined. And when you look at this game, there's a couple factors here. A, Buffalo has won 4 straight home games against the Dolphins in Buffalo. That's number 1. That's what I'm thinking Buffalo. Number 2, in those games, the Bills' offense has averaged 25 points per game on offense, and they've held the Dolphins' defense to 10 points by their defense. That's number 2. And also, the Miami rushing attack in those 4 games has only been held to 65.5 yards per game on the ground against Buffalo in Buffalo. So those are a few of the reasons why I'm taking Buffalo. But the main reason is, for Tyrod Taylor and Rex Ryan needs to win out to save his job, or at least have the prospect of saving his job. He probably still might get fired at the end of the year. But if he can win 3 straight games, get them to an above 500 record, 2nd time in 3 years they've accomplished that, and only the 3rd time in 12 years they've accomplished a winning record, I think that could be enough to save Rex Ryan's job, because at least he improved the team. And I know people are going to say, well, he just won 1 extra game. Again, there's a different perception of winning record and average record or non-losing. 2 totally different perceptions. There's improvement there, and for Tyrod's sake, with his 6-year, $92 million contract, which is segmented into essentially 6 one-year deals. The Bills, at some point about late February, early March, before the new calendar year starts, they have an option that they can decline. If Tyrod Taylor is a quarterback that the Bills going to consider a future quarterback, he has to win a game like this in order, especially against the Dolphins' backup quarterback in your home stadium, with that running game, with that defense, and with this history of this Dolphin team coming up to Buffalo in the cold. It should be a close game, and Matt Moore, look, he's a veteran quarterback, and he's going to give them a chance. But with those stats and with that pressure, I expect the Bills to do enough against the backup quarterback of the Dolphins in that offense to pull out this win and possibly save Rex Ryan and Tyrod Taylor's tenure in Buffalo. Should be a great game. Two equally matched teams, two desperate teams, but two for totally different situations. But I'm going to take Buffalo here minus 3.5. I think, again, you have a better running attack than the Dolphins have. You have the better quarterback in this matchup. The defenses are about the same, and you're at home. And I'm just going to trust the Bills that in their, the most desperate of times, they could pull out a win that could save both the quarterback and the head coach's future on that team. So that's all, like Buffalo minus 3.5 and Buffalo straight up. Tampa Bay over New Orleans. The Bucs, they had an awkward game against the Cowboys. They were able to come back from a 14-point deficit, or about a 14-point deficit, and tie the game at about 20. But then the Cowboys defense was able to make three huge mistakes, or three huge turnovers, which were the difference. And Dak Prescott was just able to efficiently and consistently pick and pocket the Bucs defense to death. Jameis Winston in the game committed 3 more turnovers. He had a fumble and 2 interceptions. And now, actually, here's kind of the odd thing. He's now committed the second most turnovers in the NFL for all QBs behind Phillip Rivers. He's tied with Blake Bortles for the second most caused turnovers in the NFL. But the fortunate thing for him is, here's the difference. Jameis Winston's won a lot more games and has had a lot more comebacks. Blake Bortles just really hasn't won anything in his NFL career. So that's the difference. But that's kind of interesting that maybe people don't realize that Winston still has had a gunslinger and a turnover problem that is kind of the difference between him and Mariota. And in the last 5 drives against the Cowboys in the fourth quarter, it did not turn out well. It only ended up being, they only gained 13 total yards of offense, and he committed the final 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter to get the Cowboys the victory. I want to congratulate Dallas' defense for doing a great job. They held the number 1 receiver on the Buccaneers to only 59 yards, and Cameron Brate, who's been incredibly impressive, he was only held to 73 yards and a touchdown, and he actually has the second most red zone touchdowns behind Jordy Nelson this year. I think he has 7. He has 7. Jordy Nelson has 10. When you look at the Bucs, they're playing a Saint team that's coming off a huge shootout victory over the Arizona Cardinals, a game that not many people, but I did, were going to expect to lose to the Cardinals. They did not, and it was because, like I said, Drew Brees was going to beat out Carson Palmer, and that's exactly what he did. In the game, Drew Brees had 389 yards passing and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions, and kind of the typical Drew Brees game we can expect him to have instead of the last 2 games where he's had no touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And for him, congratulations, that was a milestone victory. Career win number 100 for the New Orleans Saints as the Saints quarterback. Congrats to him. Very well deserved. And the thing with the Saints offense is that it's they have the number 2 offense in points and the number 1 offense in yards. And the Saints, I believe, have either tied Atlanta for the most 40-point games in the year, or they have the second most 40-point games in the NFL behind the Falcons. Though, again, like their defense, though, is kind of the opposite. That's why New Orleans really can't win until they improve that defense or move on, because their defense is about dead last in every other category. And their defense gave up the second most points of the year to the Cardinals, and if it wasn't for a couple, Cardinal turnovers or a couple iffy penalties, the Cardinals probably could have won that game. And when I look at this game, I just think it's something where Tampa, they have a path. All they know is they have to win their final 2 divisional games. They just beat this team 2 weeks ago in Tampa. Playing in that Superdome is different than playing in Tampa, but what I've told you guys in the past is that over the last few years, the New Orleans Saints Superdome, home dome advantage is not the same. And the last time Winston won that dome in his rookie year, he actually was able to pull out a victory. So with that being said, with knowing how that possibly they're getting one of their tackles back, they have a much more loaded defense than what the Saints have, and just knowing what Winston was able to do under all that, the rest, I'm going to take Tampa Bay here just because they've proven to be more consistent. I've trusted their defense much more than I trust New Orleans, and this is a team that if they want to be considered for real, just in the right direction, they need a win over a New Orleans team to keep their division and playoff hopes both alive. It should be a great game. The game just a couple weeks ago was great. It was low scoring. I expect this one to be a little more high scoring just because of where they are. But I'm going to take Tampa Bay here. I trust the defense a lot more. They lost to the number one team in the NFL. No shame in that. And I just think New Orleans, they'll put up points, but they'll be outscored at the end of the day. And with Tampa Bay's offense just in that dome, I expect Winston to outshoot Breeze to get the victory. So that's all, like Tampa Bay plus 3.5, and Tampa Bay straight up. Next game, Patriots over Jets. This was one of the easier games of the week to pick. The Jets have been incredibly disappointing, but I guess that's what people in New York say, same old Jets. When you look at the Jets, Bryce Petty, in the games he started this year, or his stats for the year, 57.7% completion percentage, 809 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And now he's, having a CT scan on his head, and he could have another injury after the double sack that Cameron Wake and Ndamukong Suh put on him. He could be out for this game, putting them back to Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Ryan Fitzpatrick threw a game-ending interception. He Fitzpatricked himself like he always does. And the Jets just at home over the last 4 games have been absolutely awful. They've been outscored by 60 points over the last 4 home games, 106 to 46. And just looking at this Jets team, it's just a abysmal disaster. Matt Forte really couldn't run the ball. Bilal Powell had probably more plays and was more dynamic. And honestly, just with how Powell is as a runner, where he is at his age, I would start Powell over Forte next year. Just because Matt Forte, you don't know how long he can stay healthy. He's an older running back, and Powell just on the field showed more production than what I've seen out of Matt Forte this year. Forte's had a couple of good games, and it's not really all Matt Forte's fault because the Jets' offensive lines are banged up, and their offenses can be very tough to watch at times. But just again, it's like it's younger, and Powell was able to work with what was given to him more than Forte was. And they're playing a Patriot team that's coming off a huge demon beater and beating the Denver Broncos 16-3. Tom Brady threw for his lowest amount of total yards in a win since Week 17 of the 2013 season in a game in which he fully started and finished. And now Tom Brady gets only his 3rd win in Denver all time, improving his record to 3-7. And that means that Trevor Siemian can join the quarterback list of Tim Tebow, and Danny Cannell is the only other quarterbacks Tom Brady has beaten in Denver. I also want to congratulate LeGarrette Blount. He broke the touchdown record for a single season by Curtis Martin with his 15th rushing touchdown in the game. And for New England also, it was the first time since Week 14 of 2007 Tom Brady went through a full game without throwing a touchdown, and the Patriots were still able to win. And the reason why I'm taking the Patriots, I'm going to use a line from another YouTube prognosticator, Logan Schiff, shouting out to him. Please check out his videos. He's great. Basically, when you pick New England, picking New England is never a bad option. And against this Jet team, it's not even close. The Patriots are playing for home field advantage. They're playing for that number 1 spot. They're motivated. And the Jets are just abysmal. They haven't won in New England since 2008. And just looking at the weapons and talent and looking at coaching, it's just all an advantage. And the reason why I'm taking them 16.5 is this is very Seattle LA to me. This is a divisional game where the other team doesn't have any chance. And the number's so big that the fact that the Seahawks were able to cover against the Rams, I have the same instinct of the Patriots covering against the Jets. It's not going to be a fun game. It's fairly easy. The Patriots just have better talent, just all around, just better execution. At the end of the day, they're the Patriots and the Jets are the Jets. And usually in Foxborough, you're going to take the Patriots to beat the Jets. So that's why I'm going to take New England minus 16.5 and a New England straight up, just too lopsided. And I learned my lesson from last week. you have one of the better teams against a scrub team, especially in division, I'm going to take the really good team by them and swallow the points in order to hopefully get the game right against the spread. So that's why I like New England minus 16.5 and New England straight up. Next game, Titans over Jaguars. First time since Week 12 of the 2011 season when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tennessee Titans committed 3 turnovers on offense, and they still won a game. They still won the game. That was an incredible statement by the Titans that they are a good team. They are a rising team, and they are a team that's made the strides in year 2. So that this team can be a player in the playoffs and provide a challenge to, any team that plays them. Because winning in Kansas City is tough to do. And the way they did it was incredibly impressive, but you could argue it was a bit awkward too. Especially with the Titans now, they have their first non-losing season secured since 2011. And Ryan Suckup hit his longest field goal he has made in 4 years with his 53-yard game-winning field goal. That's right, in over 4 years before that, he never kicked a field goal longer than 52. And I think 5 years ago, he kicked a 54-yard field goal, but that's the longest field goal he has ever made. So, congrats for the Titans on that one. And congrats to Ryan Suckup for becoming the big hero and the clutch kicker to win them the game. And also the Titans, what they've been able to do very well is run the ball. They have the number 3 rushing offense in the league behind Derrick Henry and the second leading rusher in the NFL in DeMarco Murray. And very New England, New York-like. This is kind of like how I feel about Tennessee, Jacksonville. Jacksonville is in disarray. They just fired their head coach, Gus Bradley. It was about time. He is 14-48 as a head coach. To put that in perspective, that is the second worst winning percentage in the NFL with a minimum of 50 games coached. So Gus Bradley did not do his job at all well. It was about time. In 4 years, this team needed to be 500, and his team has enough talent to be 500 or better at this point of where they are. They've also lost 9 straight games, which is their longest losing streak in franchise history. And let's just remember here, the Jacksonville Jaguars had a 20-8 lead going, in the game. They had a 12-point lead. And the Houston Texans benched their starting quarterback, the man that they paid $72 million, and a man that they owe $37 million fully guaranteed, for a 4th-round pick out of the 2014 NFL Draft, the guy that had been transferred from Rutgers to Arizona to Pitt by a guy by the name of Tom Savage. Tom Savage comes into the game, doesn't throw a touchdown, but he throws for about 286 yards, and the Texans are able to find a way to win a game after benching their $72 million quarterback and bringing this 4th-round, 3rd-year veteran that has never played a meaningful NFL game and win the game. That's all I need to say, but how bad the Jags are. Congrats to Tom Savage and the Texans, 10 straight division wins, still the longest streak in the NFL. But that's just awful. That's just too bad to not get rid of him for. And also, hey, in Bradley's last game, they had their first kickoff return touchdown for Gus Bradley in the Bradley era. So, hey, that's a positive, Coach. Finally got a kickoff return touchdown. And the Jaguars, they've lost 11 of the last 13 home games, and they haven't won a home game in Jacksonville in over a year. So, again, you're playing a Titan team that can run the ball, a Titan team with an efficient quarterback, and a Jacksonville team that's now under a new coach, interim coach, and offensive line assistant Doug Marrone. They're in just so much disarray, and the Titans are just running along with their system. I think the Titans win very easily by the 4.5 points, just because, again, Tennessee's a well-oiled machine. I've doubted them too many times this year, and they have nipped me in the butt too many times, and to say against a Jacksonville team that is one of the worst, I have no confidence to say Tennessee easily beats a Jacksonville team that's just playing the last 2 games to see if they can get, a smile on their face. I don't expect the Jags to win their last 2, but if they can, good for those players. So that's like Tennessee minus 4.5, and Tennessee straight up. Next game, Packers over Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings only ran 12 plays in 1 half. That was the lowest amount of plays ran in a half since Week 14 of the 2012 season. The Vikings defense also gave up their 4th most points against under coach Mike Zimmer. And for the first time since week 1 of last year, 2015 season, the Vikings scored under a touchdown. Everybody was thinking, oh, Adrian Peterson's going to be back. Adrian Peterson, will help this offense a lot. How did he do yesterday? Oh, yeah, that's right. He only ran 6 times for 22 yards. And for all the Minnesota fans that, were saying Sam Bradford was the answer at quarterback, let me just explain something that was just mind-bogglingly, amazingly bad. Sam Bradford was playing the 25th ranked defense in points allowed. That's the 7th worst defense in points scored per game. He only could score 2 field goals. I know AP fumbled and they had a couple miscues, but come on, you were the first offense since the Jags offense in 2014, week 12 to be exact, to do that against the Colts defense, to score under a touchdown. And people want to say that Sam Bradford is the long-term solution in Minnesota? Really? 6 points against that defense. Wow. Just food for thought. I don't get it, but, they'll just say, oh, well, he completed 71% of his passes. Bravo, he has 6 wins. If Sam Bradford, with the way I'm expecting it, he will become the Jeff Fisher of quarterbacks. You can have Sam Bradford on your roster, and you pretty much can expect 7 wins every year from Sam Bradford. And that will either get you to 500 or 7-9, and he will continue to have support. But that's enough of my tangent there about Sam Bradford. I digress. But those are my thoughts on that. They're playing a Packer team that's hit their stride incredibly well. Julius Peppers had a sack, strip, and recovery for the first time since Week 10 of the 2014 season. Ty Montgomery became 3rd Green Bay running back with 150-plus rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, joining Jim Taylor and Ahmad Green as the only other Green Bay running backs to achieve that accomplishment. And Devontae Adams, he had a rough game. And I was kind of angry because, again, they could not cover, which was amazing against Chicago. He had 2 red zone drops, which has been the most since Eddie Royal did it in Week 17 of 2010 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, or against Pittsburgh. And here's a little fun trivia question. The other 2 running backs to have ran for more rushing yards than Ty Montgomery did, a former wide receiver, by the way, were 2 guys by the name of Sam Congato and Ryan Grant back in 2007. Sam Congato had 162 rushing yards, and Ryan Grant had 201 rushing yards in 2007. And also, for the Packers, this was different. The Packers offense could not, or Aaron Rodgers could not throw a touchdown. This is the first game all year where Rodgers has not thrown a touchdown. And for the first time since Week 14 of 2012, they were able to win the game, and he hadn't thrown a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers has also not lost a home game in December since 2008. And just looking at the Vikings, they look like they quit on Mike Zimmer on Sunday because that should not have happened. The Colts could have won the game, but they shouldn't have won by 28. The Vikings shouldn't have looked that flat. When you let Eric Swoops, a guy that had never played football, catch his first career touchdown and make it look easy, there's a lot more deeper problems than what's just going on with the structure and execution. That's maybe just a lack of effort. But playing against a Green Bay team that's at their stride, nobody wants to play the Packers right now, and the Vikings are just in a prone spot to get a pretty long day at Lambeau Field. Minnesota's defense, look, they've had Aaron Rodgers' number, and it's a division game, and I don't think Zimmer will have his team quit, or I don't think his guys are like that. But I'm taking Green Bay here because their defense has been clicking. Minnesota's offense apparently does not have the weapons that Chicago does. And I just think, again, Minnesota's mental state, I'm not really fond of it. I think they're just getting through the year to end it. And the Green Bay Packers are trying to win the North and achieve what Aaron Rodgers expected, was to win out and win the division. So it should be an interesting game. I think Minnesota has a chance with their defense that they can play. But with that offense, the way it's going, I don't think they're going to be able to score enough. And that Packer defense should be able to play like it did against Seattle just a couple weeks ago. So that's like Green Bay -7 and Green Bay straight up. Next game, Chargers over Browns. One team is not the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland is the fourth team in NFL history to start 0-14, and then they now have 17 straight losses as a franchise, and they're only 9 away from tying the longest losing streak in the NFL. Of course, that was the first year of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' existence, the 1974-75 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know, I was going to, if it was more than 7 points, I might have taken Cleveland, because San Diego has had a massive problem with close games for the last 2 years. Though Phillip Rivers, look, he's thrown for a lot of yards, but this year he actually leads the league in interceptions with 18. So his own mistakes, and I think people are finally realizing maybe I know he's a franchise quarterback, but this year he's not really worth the $21 million we paid him if he's leading the league in interceptions. In the last 30 games the Chargers have played, 80% of those games have been decided by one possession or less. In those 24 games, people, they are 7-17. This kind of explains the Ravens too. We were really bad in one possession games last year. We're still not great at it, but we improved enough on defense, and our players are healthier as well that we've been able to close a few more of those games the Chargers haven't been able to. And I think, again, there is a bright spot with San Diego. Hunter Henry is leading all tight ends in receiving touchdowns this year with 7. And they're playing Cleveland. San Diego at their worst, with no Melvin Gordon, with Kenneth Farrow running the football, with no Brandon Flowers, with no Verrett, with no Teo, with no Keenan Allen, with no Danny Woodhead. If they have Phillip Rivers, that's enough to beat the Cleveland Browns. Terrell Pryor just hurt his finger, and he's going to have surgery on a broken finger at the end of the season. They really can't run the ball. Isaiah Crowell has double the rushing yards of any other Brown running back. Do you know who started on the Browns in rushing? Robert Griffin III. And ladies and gentlemen, he's only played 3 games. And he's third on the team in rushing in only 3 games. So that shows how bad the Browns are. And again, there was a part of me that, Cleveland, could win. But I'm like, with how they're looking, San Diego, they have more talent on their roster. They have Phillip Rivers, they have Travis Benjamin, and they have a more complete team, even with all the injuries, than the Cleveland Browns do. If San Diego was fully healthy, this wasn't even going to be a contest. This could somewhat be a contest, but after trusting them to cover 10 against Buffalo, I'm not doing that with under a touchdown against San Diego, even as banged up as San Diego is. And they should get Melvin Gordon back, which will help them immensely. So that's why I like San Diego -6 and San Diego straight up. Next game, Redskins over Chicago. Matt Barkley, I want to congratulate him. Matt Barkley threw for a Bears franchise high 362 yards against the Green Bay Packers, and Jordan Howard tied Jeremy Langford for the most rookie year touchdowns with 6. And when you just look at the Bears, I'll give Matt Barkley this. He's played well enough that I think he has earned the right to come back to Chicago and compete for the backup job. The fact that I know about Matt Barkley is, besides the game against San Francisco, which nobody's going to take home about, he's been able to almost win games, but he's had too many turnovers to be the difference. He committed 4 yesterday against the Packers. If he doesn't commit those, they probably somehow pull off the upset against the Packers. But he did. And just looking at that team, Alshon Jeffrey came back and he had a pretty good half, but they just all nailed it in for the season. The defense really isn't there. There's too many guys on the IR. And they're playing a Washington team that is incredibly motivated. Kirk Cousins, like I said last week, multiple 4,000-yard seasons. First Redskins quarterback to do that. They've also won 12 of the last 14 games against the Bears. And just when you look at the two teams, Redskins have better tight end. Redskins just all across the board have a better advantage in all areas compared to the Chicago Bears. So that's all, like Washington -3.5 and Washington straight up. Next game, Falcons over Panthers. Devontae Freeman had his 3rd game with 3+ rushing touchdowns or more. And over the last 2 seasons, no other running back has a game like that but 1. And again, Atlanta, they beat California the last 2 weeks. They beat LA and San Francisco and outscored them 83-27. So again, we can give Atlanta's defense some credit. Atlanta's offense is Atlanta's offense. We know they can score, and their defense is playing 2 scrub teams on offense. So I'm not really... Congrats for Atlanta for winning those games and doing what you needed to get done. But there's really not that much to write home about when playing the Niners and Rams in back-to-back games. But there is one thing that happened with these two bad teams. This is the first time since weeks 3 and 4 of the 2010 season, the Atlanta defense have been able to hold two teams back-to-back to 14 points or fewer. So in about 7 years, first time since weeks 3 and 4 of 2010, their defense has been able to hold two straight opponents to 14 points or under. And when you look at the Panthers, I'm just not sold on them. Cam Newton, again, completed under 50% 4 straight games. Kelvin Benjamin's hurt. Cam Newton, shoulder injury himself. They gave up over 45 points to the Falcons. The Panthers defense gave over 45 points against them. And the last time they played Julio Jones, he went for 300. Are you telling me that now, with them being in Carolina, and with Atlanta having the extra motivation of the fact that the last time the Falcons went to Carolina, they got shut out 38-0? Yeah. Atlanta is the farly superior team. They have the better running backs. They have the better offensive line. This defense will, be able to hold up, and they'll be smelling blood for Cam and that team after that embarrassment they had just last year. And I just think Atlanta, just offense, will be able to shred the Panthers defense once again, just like I expect Kirk Cousins to as well. It's going to be a long day for Carolina, who's already out of the playoffs, and are just playing games now to end the games. But I'm taking Atlanta here. Far better offense, more superior running game, and just the revenge of 38-0 will be in those Falcons' minds, and that will drive them to a victory and to an absolute beatdown of the Panthers. So that's why I get Atlanta in a pick 'em, and Atlanta straight up against Carolina. Oakland over Indianapolis. The Colts, for the first time in 12 years, did something very impressive. They won 2 back-to-back road games by 28 or more points. That's the first time since 2004 they've been able to do that in a month as well. I also want to congratulate Frank Gore. He passed Tony Dorsett for 10th all-time in scrimmage yards. And now Frank Gore has 2 100-yard rushing games in the same season. I think for Andrew Luck's career, that is a first. That a running back was able to have 2 100-plus yard games on the ground in the same year. So, that's incredibly impressive to me, and I'm very happy for the Colts about how they dominated the Vikings. Even though I have to admit I was incredibly shocked, because I thought the Vikings' offense and defense would put up more of a fight. And when you look at who they're playing, it's the exact opposite of feeling with the Raiders. What the Colts had to worry about with the Vikings was their defense and their run game. You have to worry a little bit about the Raiders' run game, but it's the total opposite. What the Colts have to worry about now is putting that 25th ranked points per game defense against one of the top 5 offenses in the league and one of the most explosive offenses in the league in the Oakland Raiders. Derek Carr, 10-win season, and the first playoff berth for the Raiders since 2002. Congrats to him. And remember, this is the guy that started out 0-10 just 2 years ago. So for him to get 10 wins in 2 years, that's an incredible turnaround. And I'm happy for the Silver and Black Nation to have come back to prominence. Oakland now also has their 7th fourth-quarter comeback of the year. That's second most in the NFL, and that's the most in Raider franchise history. And when I just look at this game, Oakland is just going to light up the Colts defense. And I just think the Raiders defense, what they've shown over the last several weeks is they will be able to make plays when they have to. They will find a way to get a turnover. They will find a way to get a stop. And even though Andrew Luck, with the weapons he has in Swoops and Dorsett and T.Y. Hilton, and he'll probably be able to throw the ball all around the yard, the Raiders will find a way to either get the game-winning touchdown against the Colts defense or find a way to get the game-winning stop against Andrew Luck to get the Raiders this victory. And just of how the Raiders offense and the Colts defense is, I trust the Raiders offense to put up more points at a higher rate than Indy will on the Raiders defense. So that's why I feel comfortable with the minus 4 points, because I think, again, they'll score a touchdown to put it within a 5-point game and then kick a field goal, to win that kind of game. It's going to be a great shootout. Good luck to both teams, but I'm going to go with Oakland. Just higher-powered offense, don't trust the Colts defense, and I trust the Raiders defense enough to, they will give up yards, and they may give up scores, but when the game is on the line, the Raiders will either make a play to give the Raiders offense the win, or they will stop the Colts offense to preserve a win and get the Raiders to a 12-3 record. So that's all I like Oakland -4 and Oakland straight up. Next game, Seahawks over Cardinals. David Johnson, 16 total touchdowns, one away from breaking the Cardinal touchdown running back record. Very impressed, very happy for him with that. David Johnson's also the first running back to have 14 straight games with 100-plus scrimmage yards in the team's first 14 games of the season. No running back has ever done that before, and he broke the Cardinals scrimmage yard record in a season held by Otis Anderson in the game against New Orleans. But like I've said in the past, though, Arizona is the ultimate spoiler team in the NFL. Here is why. Their team scored a season high in points on offense, but at the same time they gave up a season high of points on defense. That is the highest amount of points the Arizona Cardinals have allowed on defense in the Bruce Arians era in a regular season game. They gave up 49 last year in the NFC title game against Carolina, but that's postseason. But here is the wacky stat of the day if everybody wants to play some trivia. The Arizona Cardinals gave up the most points in Arizona Cardinal franchise history, and in total franchise history, you have to go back to week 10 of the 1981 season when the St. Louis Cardinals played the Philadelphia Eagles and gave up 52 points at home and won 52-10 over the St. Louis Cardinals at the time. So there's your fun fact of the day that nobody probably ever thought about. That's a stat that I appreciate. Yep. So again, one more time. The Cardinals gave their most points at home as a total franchise since 1981 when they were the St. Louis Cardinals and gave up 52 points to the Philadelphia Eagles and lost 52-10 in Week 10 of the 1981 season. But when you look at Arizona and Seattle's the only undefeated team left at home. Tyler Lockett, a career high in yardage with 130 yards. They gained some confidence. Russell Wilson has played a much better game. I know it was the Rams, but that had to boost his confidence somewhat. And kudos to John Ryan, who had the second longest run of the night and the second most rushing yard total out of any running back with a 26-yard fake punt run. Even though he probably won't play because he's in the concussion protocol. But I'm going to take Seattle here because, again, Arizona, spoiler team, and I think Arizona has a better chance than people think because Arizona, over the last 5 seasons, has been the only team that's gone into Seattle more than once to beat them at home in the regular season. So that's why I'm going to take them +9 because Arizona, again, has all the talent to make a game of it. But I'm going to take Seattle because I'm going to trust them in the defeated home aspect, and there's going to be just some way the Cardinals make one mistake or the Seahawks make one more play to get the Seahawks to win. So that's all I like Arizona +9 and Seattle straight up. Niners over Rams. The Niners shut them out. That's it. I truly believe this is going to be amazing. So let's think about this for 1 second. The Giants can go, the Cowboys can go 14-2, and their only 2 losses can be against the Giants. How good are the Giants? What I want to ask people is this: if the Niners go 2-14, and the only two wins they had were against the LA Rams, how bad are the LA Rams? And here's one more stat for you. Just the reason why I'm going to take the Niners, a little fun stat. The Los Angeles Angels in LA, the baseball team, on July 2nd of this year, scored 21 runs in a game. That is incredibly hard to do in baseball. Okay? If you put that up against the Rams offense, that score, they would be 11-2-1 against the Rams this year. In that one game. And a baseball franchise could be 11-2-1 with one baseball game against the Rams. But I'm taking San Francisco here. They shut him out. Have the better quarterback. Goff's hurt. Goff has 3 games without touchdown passes. And I just can't trust the Rams as far as I can throw them. So that's like San Francisco +3 and San Francisco straight up. Bengals over Texans. 14-9 lead in... 14-9 lead going into... Or 17-9 lead going into the half. They were outscored 15-0. 15-0 to finish the game. And this also secured the first losing season for Cincinnati since 2010. And now Marvin Lewis 11-5 against Pittsburgh all time. And after Jeremy Hill tried to rip the terrible towel, he had -4 rushing yards the entire rest of the game. So, quick lesson, Jeremy Hill, do not mess with the terrible towel. But Houston, look, they're having a big problem of their own, though. Tom Savage was replaced for Brock Osweiler. He's getting paid over $300,000 in guaranteed money. Brock Osweiler has $37 million in guaranteed money. And even though they won their 10th straight game in division, and Houston's won 5 of the last 6 games, I don't think with Cincinnati they're going to let Tom Savage beat them. Andy Dalton has had a long history with the Texans, and it's not pretty. He only has, I believe, 1 career win against them. But if he lets Tom Savage, a 4th-round pick, be able to beat him, I think that is the death nail for Marvin Lewis, or more so, because that should not happen. I think the Texans have a shot because Savage looked pretty good, and Savage has experience in the system. But in this situation, I'm going to trust A.J. Green is able to come back. He has his full complement of weapons. They can run the ball more effectively. And I think the Bengals are just going to confuse Savage enough to get the Bengals the victory. So that's like Cincinnati plus 2.5 and Cincinnati straight up. Next game, Steelers over Ravens. Chris Boswell tied a single-game record for 6 field goals in a game. Last kicker to do that for Pittsburgh was Jeff Reed. Also, speaking of field goal kicking, Justin Tucker, 10 50-plus yard field goals. That is the ties Blair Walsh for the most in a single season. And the Ravens have also recorded 4 straight home wins for the first time since 2012. And the way I look at it is this. Like I mentioned earlier with the Eagles, if the Eagles can rush for the most yards our running defense has given up the entire year, just imagine what one of the top 5 or the second best running back in the NFL, Le'Veon Bell, can do against this defensive line with Pittsburgh's offensive line. Pittsburgh is angry. They've lost 4 straight times to the Ravens. And I trust Ben Roethlisberger on the Christmas Day stage, in the Christmas Day spotlight, more than I do Joe Flacco and our erratic offense. We should have lost to Philadelphia. But Doug Peterson's guts came to bite him back there. And I think, again, Mike Tomlin will not make those kind of decisions that cost them the game. I think it's going to be a great game. It's the game of the week for me. I'm going to take Baltimore plus 4.5. These games usually end up being 3-point games. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh straight up because I trust their offense more. Le'Veon will be able to run the ball pretty effectively. And I just don't trust Baltimore to play a consistent enough offensive game to go into Pittsburgh for a 3rd straight time and beat them. So that's like Baltimore plus 4.5 and Pittsburgh straight up. Kansas City over Denver. Denver's offense for only the 2nd time in their 57-year history were held by a non-division opponent to 3 points or less. It's also Denver's first time scoring under 7 points in a game since 2011. And that's why I'm going to take Kansas City. Kansas City, though they became the first team in the last 15 years to lose with a 14-0 lead in sub-30-degree temperatures, other teams are 45-0. Now that record is 45-1. I just think KC, they've won 8 straight games in the division, and the Broncos are infighting with themselves. And when you have that never works. And I just trust Kansas City. They're going to bounce back. They know that essentially they still control a playoff spot, and they need a win over Denver just to gain confidence. And I just think, again, the way they played them is going to be at home. The Broncos are in disarray. Trust the Chiefs to get this kind of victory to move them forward. So that's all like KC -4 and KC straight up. And finally, Dallas over Detroit. Matthew Stafford, losing record against winning teams. He is 6-44 in 50 games against winning teams in his career. And the last time I checked, the Dallas Cowboys are a winning football team. They just came off a game where Dak Prescott completed the 2nd highest completion percentage in a single game with a minimum of 30 pass attempts. 32 of 36 to be exact. Ezekiel Elliott also breaks the Cowboy rookie rushing touchdown record with 13. And he's 327 yards ahead of the 2nd leading rusher in the NFL, which was the former running back of the Cowboys, DeMarco Murray. So with all that being said, plus the combination of Darius Slay being out, possibly for the Lions, yeah, that equals a Cowboys victory. Nice and sound for me. And I tried to pick the Lions against the spread last week. They let me down for an 11-point loss. So 7, I'll buy that one. So that's like Dallas -7 and Dallas straight up. And those are my picks for this week. So like, comment, rate, subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube prognosticators page. And once again, from me to everybody out there watching, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And until next week, this is Matthew Fanatic signing off. Until then, so long.